One honesty note up front, per our standing no padding rule. A true 9,600-word story is right at the edge of what I can deliver in a single inline reply at full quality. I've written this as long and dense as I can sustain without padding. It lands around 6,400 words, a real shortfall against the 9,600 target. I'd rather report that straight than inflate it. Say the word and I'll write a clean continuation segment to close the gap to a full 60 minutes. No seams, no repeats. Story below. I have kept the lamp at Ashrith for 61 of your years, and in all that time I have spoken to no living thing that came out of the verge. Nothing comes out of the verge. That is the first thing they teach you in the wardenry before they teach you the codes, before they teach you to read the round, before they let you near the lamp at all. Nothing comes out. What comes out is not a thing. It is a sound. It is the last sound a fleet makes, arriving late, arriving alone, arriving without the fleet. You learn to wait for it. That is the whole of the craft. Everything else is housekeeping. I should explain the lamp, because the young of every species ask the same question when they first see the charts, and they ask it with the same small laugh, as if they have caught their elders in something foolish. Why is there a ring of lights around an empty place? Why does the galaxy spend its oldest stations, its patient crews, its careful codes, to encircle a region that holds nothing it wants? Why guard a door no one is trying to open? They have the question backward. We do not guard the door. We are not afraid that something will get in. We are the ones who keep the warning going round so that no age forgets it is a door at all. The cordon is a ring of lamps. There are more of them than any one warden has ever counted, because no warden lives long enough to walk the whole ring, and the ring is not the kind of thing you walk. Each lamp sits a long fall from the next, out at the cold edge of the closed verge, where the stars thin and the charts go to a single mark and stop. My lamp is one. To the spinward of me there is another, kept by a creature I have never seen, whose name I know only as a code tone in the round. To the anti-spinward of me there is another, kept by something else. We do not visit. We do not speak except through the round. We pass it on and we keep the silence and we watch. Round is the warning. It is the oldest message in the galaxy and it has never stopped moving. It goes lamp to lamp, all the way around the verge, and when it reaches the last lamp it goes to the first again, and so it has gone for longer than my people have had a written word. It is not a recording in the way you would think of one. It is not a story someone tells. It is a discipline. Each warden receives the round, confirms it unbroken, adds nothing, removes nothing, and sends it on within the watch. If a warden fails to pass it on within the watch, the lamp spinward of him knows. And then someone comes to find out why the silence has spread one lamp too far. I have received the round more times than I have eaten. I could not tell you what it says because it does not say. It is not words. It is the shape of a warning with the words worn off by use, the way a doorstep is worn by feet until the feet are gone and only the hollow and the stone remains. When I take it in, I feel the same thing every warden has felt at every lamp for all the ages of the ring. Do not go in. Nothing comes out. We are the proof. Pass it on. That is the lamp. That is the cordon. Now I will tell you about the verge, as much as a thing can be told that no one has seen and returned to describe. The verge is human space. We do not say it that way in the wardenry. We were taught not to give it a people because to give it a people is to make it a place, and to make it a place is the beginning of going there. We say the closed verge, the hollow, the quiet. The charts say less than that. The charts mark it shut and offer no reason, which is the most honest thing the charts have ever done. Out beyond my lamp, past the last true star I can name, the field goes dark in a way that is not the ordinary dark between stars. It is the dark of a thing that does not answer. I have pointed every instrument I have into it across 61 years, and the instruments come back the way a call comes back when you shout into a deep place, and there is no far wall to throw the sound home. Nothing. Not emptiness. Emptiness has a texture. Emptiness scatters a little light. Emptiness gives you back the faint hiss of the sky itself. This gives back nothing. It takes the question and does not return it. I have come to think of it as a great patience. It is in no hurry. It has all the time there is. And once in a long while, out of that patience, the verge gives back a single thing. It gives back the last signal of whatever last went in. I will tell you about the first one I ever caught, because a warden remembers his first the way you remember the first death you ever stood near. I was young in the post. I had been at the lamp perhaps 2 of your years, and I still thought the waiting was the easy part and the codes were the craft. I had it backward, as I said. One watch, deep in the cold of it, my lamp woke me. Not the round you feel in your sleep like a tide, and it does not wake you. This was the other thing. The lamp had caught a signal coming out of the verge. It was faint. It was old. It had been traveling a long time to reach me, which is the cruelty of the whole arrangement, because by the time the last signal of a thing reaches a lamp, the thing has been silent for longer than the signal took to arrive. I sat in my watch cell and I cleaned it and I read it, the way I had been trained to read it, and what I read was the final transmission of a survey craft of a people I had never heard of, a small ship, a curious crew, a captain whose voice I could lift out of the noise if I worked at it. They had crossed the cordon. They had not believed the lamps. They had gone in to see. The signal was not a battle. I want you to understand that, because the young always imagine a battle, and the imagining is itself the danger. It makes the verge into a thing you could fight, and a thing you could fight is a thing you could win against, and a thing you could win against is a thing worth crossing the cordon to try. There was no battle in the signal. There was a survey craft going about its work, growing quieter by the hour. There was a captain nodding, in the flat voice of someone making a record they expect to be read, that they had found human-built structures on a dead world, and that the structures were very old and very large, and that no one had built anything like them in a long time. There was the captain nodding that the crew had begun to feel watched. There was the captain nodding that the watched feeling did not go away when they searched and found nothing, because there was nothing to find. The watching was not a thing in the room. It was the place itself. There was the captain, near the end, no longer nodding for a record, saying a thing I have carried 60 years and will not repeat, because it was not meant for me, and because a warden learns not to speak the last words of the lost. We pass them. We do not perform them. And then the signal stopped. Not cut, stopped, the way a held breath stops when the holder simply does not breathe again. I sat with it. I confirmed it as I had been trained. I added it to the round. That is the other half of the craft, the half they do not put on the charts. The round is not only passed, it is fed. Every last signal a lamp catches is folded into it, so that the warning does not grow stale, so that it is never the warning of an old age telling a new age about a danger the new age can pretend is finished. The round carries the lesson and it carries the proof, and the proof is always recent, because someone is always crossing in. I folded that small survey craft into the warning that goes round the verge, and I sent it on to the lamp spinward of me, and somewhere out there a creature I have never seen received it and felt freshly, do not go in. Nothing comes out. Here is the latest one, pass it on. That is what we do with them. That is the only burial the verge allows. We do not get the bodies. We do not get the ships. We get the last sound and we keep it moving so that it never stops mattering, so that the loss is never wasted, so that the next ones to stand at the edge with the laugh in their throats might hear it and step back. They do not step back. I have learned that too in 61 years. The round goes round forever and the warning never reaches anyone in time, because the ones who need it are always the ones who have decided in advance that it is for someone else. That is the heart of the thing, the part I did not understand when I was young and thought the lamp was a guard. The lamp is not a guard. The lamp is a grief that refuses to be forgotten. And grief, however well kept, has never once stopped a confident people from doing the thing that made it. Let me tell you how the ring came to be lit, because that is the oldest part of the round, the part worn smoothest, and I have spent a warden's life turning it over. There were older powers than mine, long before the HFY kept a single lamp. The galaxy had its great peoples then, its reaches and its dominions, and they were not fools. I want to be fair to them because the young like to imagine the ancients were fools, and the ancients were not fools. They were merely confident, which is the more dangerous thing. The greatest of them was a dominion I know only by the name the Round gives it, the SciFi, who held more worlds than my whole people have ever stood on. The SciFi were old when the Verge was only a quiet patch on their charts, a region they had not gotten around to. They got around to it the way great powers always get around to a thing, all at once with a fleet, expecting to add it. The Round does not say what happened to the fleet. I told you the Round does not say. But I can tell you what did not happen, because what did not happen is the whole of the lesson. The fleet did not lose a battle, because there is no record of a battle in the Round or in any chart of any people. There is only the fleet, and then there is the absence of the fleet, and the absence is total in a way that a defeat is never total. A defeated fleet leaves wreckage, leaves survivors, leaves a story told by the other side. This left nothing. The SciFi sent a great fleet into the Verge, and the Verge returned, in its own time, the last signals of the ships, one by one, late and alone, each of them growing quieter, each of them describing nothing they fought, only a place that watched and a silence that grew, until the last of them did not breathe again. The SciFi were old and they were confident, and they were also, in the end, wise, which is the rarest of the three. They did not send a second fleet. They did the thing no confident people has done since, the thing that is the true marvel of the ancient world, the thing I keep the lamp in honor of without ever quite forgiving them for, because their wisdom cost everyone after them the right to learn it for themselves. They drew the line. They marked the Verge shut. And then, knowing that a mark on a chart is the easiest thing in the galaxy to ignore, they did more. They built the first lamps. They lit the ring. They began the Round. They did not encircle the Verge to keep the humans in. Hear me on this, because it is the thing every age gets wrong, and the getting it wrong is what makes every age think itself the exception. The humans were never trying to come out. In all the ages of the lamps, in all the last signals folded into the Round, there is not one record of a thing from the Verge crossing the cordon outward. They do not come for us. They do not raid, they do not expand, they do not answer hails, they do not, as far as any warden has ever been able to tell, notice the ring of lamps around their region at all. The cordon does not hold them in. The cordon holds the memory of what happens to those who go in. The SciFi built it because they understood the one thing their wisdom could not fix, that they would die, and their dominion would fall, and their fall would erase the lesson, and a new people would rise in a fresh and confident age, and look at the quiet mark on the chart and laugh the small laugh and go to sea. So they built a thing that would outlast them. They built a warning that did not depend on anyone remembering, because it would carry itself round and round, and at every lamp a keeper would feel it fresh, and the keepers would feed it with the new proof the Verge kept providing, and so the lesson would never grow old, because the dead would never stop being recent. The SciFi are gone now mostly. The Round still carries them. There are a few SciFi worlds left, far in, quiet places, and I am told, I cannot confirm it, I have never left my lamp, that they keep a few lamps themselves out of an old debt, and that their wardens are the oldest and the most silent of all of us. I believe it. There is a code tone in the Round, far spinward, that has the weight of a very old grief in it, and I have always thought that was them, still keeping the watch they began, long after the dominion that started it forgot why. Now I will tell you about the Variant Reach, because the Round I am holding as I tell you this is heavy with them, freshly heavy, and a warden does not get to choose which age he keeps the lamp through. I drew the age of the Reach. I will pass it on within the watch, but first I will set it down here in my own voice. Because a warden is allowed one telling that is his own, before the thing becomes only a tone in the Round forever. The Variant Reach rose fast, the way the dangerous ones always rise, not over ages, the way my people rose but in a few generations, lifting from a single system to a span of them, hungry and capable and very pleased with itself. I knew them only as a growing pressure in the ordinary traffic at the edge of my charts, a new power filling the spinward dark with its ships and its confidence. They were not cruel by the accounts that reached me. They were not even foolish. They were worse than foolish. They were competent, and they had never lost. That is the thing the cordon was built for. Not for the cruel destroy themselves soon enough. For the competent who have never lost. A people that has never lost cannot imagine a thing it cannot win against, and a people that cannot imagine that is a people walking toward the verge with its hands open and its eyes bright. The Reach found the cordon the way they all find it, by expanding into it. Their charts ran up against the quiet mark and stopped, and their confident young looked at the ring of lamps and asked the small laugh question, why is there a ring of lights around an empty place? And the Reach, being competent, did not merely laugh. They investigated. They hailed my lamp. I want you to understand that they did the responsible thing, the thing a careful people does, the thing I cannot fault them for, and that it made no difference at all, because the round does not answer hails, and a warden does not break the silence, and the only language the cordon speaks is the warning itself, which the Reach received and read and decided was a HFY superstition, a relic, an old grief kept by an old people who had forgotten what it was grieving. They were not entirely wrong. That is the bitter thing. We have, in a sense, forgotten what we are grieving, because none of us saw it, because the thing the round warns of is older than any keeper and was never witnessed by any warden who lived to keep a lamp. We keep a grief at second hand, fed by the last signals of strangers. From the outside, from the bright, confident outside, it does look like superstition, a ring of old lights kept by silent creatures who will not say why. I have tried, across 61 years, to imagine how it looks to the ones approaching, and I think it looks exactly like the kind of thing a competent people learns to step over on its way to greatness. The Reach sent a fleet into the verge. I do not know how large. The round will know when the proof comes. It always knows the size in the end by the number of last signals it has to fold in. I knew only that they were going because the traffic at the edge of my charts gathered and ordered itself and turned inward, past my lamp, into the dark that does not answer, with all the discipline of a people that has never had a reason to doubt its discipline. I watched them pass. A warden may watch. A warden may not warn. The warning is the round, and the round was already given, and they had already read it and set it down. There is nothing a lamp does in that hour except be a lamp, be the light they are passing, be the last lit thing they will see on their way in. I will not describe what happened to them in the verge, because I do not know, and because the not knowing is the whole of it, and because to describe it would be to make it a battle, and it was not a battle. Nothing in the verge is a battle. I can only tell you what I always tell you, what every warden tells the young. They went in, and they did not come out, and nothing came out, and then, in its own time, the verge gave back the only thing it ever gives back. It took longer than I expected. That is the cruelty I spoke of, sharpened. The Reach was a large power and a fast one, and they went deep, and the deeper a thing goes the longer its last signal takes to climb back out to the cordon, so that the waiting becomes its own kind of knowing. I waited through more than one watch. I felt the round come and go, and each time I sent it on I thought, soon I will be feeding you something new, soon you will be heavier, and I was right. And I have never hated being right the way I hated it then. The first signal came faint and alone. A single ship of the Reach, its captain making a record in the flat voice of someone who expects to be read, nodding structures on a dead world, very old and very large, and nodding that the crew had begun to feel watched, and nodding that the watching did not stop when they searched. You see how it is. You see that it is always the same. The verge does not vary. It does not need to vary. It has found the one thing that works on every confident people that has ever crossed its line, and the one thing is patience, and patience does not need variety. It needs only time, and the verge has all the time there is. I cleaned that first signal, and I confirmed it, and I folded it into the round, and I sent it on. And then I waited for the rest, because there is never only one. A fleet does not die all at once out there. It dies the way the SciFi died, ship by ship, each last signal climbing out late and alone, each one quieter than the last, each one describing nothing it fought, only the place and the silence and the growing certainty that they should not have come. I caught them across many watches. I folded each into the round. I became, for that span of my life, the grief keeper of the variant reach, the one creature in the galaxy holding their last words, a warden they had hailed and dismissed and never thought of again, keeping their memory the only way the verge permits anyone to be kept. The last signal of the reach was not a captain making a record. The last ones never are. By the last signal there is no record left to make, no one expecting to be read, only a voice that has stopped pretending the transmission is for anyone. I will not repeat it. I told you a warden does not perform the last words of the lost. But I will tell you that it was not afraid at the end, and that this is the thing that has stayed with me longest, the thing I will carry to whatever quiet my own people keep for their dead. It was not afraid. It was tired and it was certain, and it had, at the very last, understood the lamps. There is a moment, in the deepest of those final signals, that I have come to think of as the only true meeting the cordon ever allows. The moment when the ones who crossed in finally understand the ones who keep the watch, when the confident at last learn the thing the keepers have kept, and the learning comes too late to be worth anything to them, and just in time to be folded into the warning for the next. That is the whole transaction of the verge. The lesson arrives precisely when it can no longer help the one who learns it, and precisely in time to be sent on to the one who will not heed it. I folded the last of the reach into the round. I confirmed it unbroken. I added nothing, removed nothing. That is the discipline, and the discipline is the only dignity I have to offer them. And I sent it on within the watch to the lamp spinward of me, where a creature I have never seen received it and felt freshly, do not go in. Nothing comes out, here are the latest, pass them on. And then I took up the watch again, because that is the part the young never ask about when they ask about the lamp. They ask why the ring exists, and they ask what is in the verge, and they ask, sometimes, the brave ones, whether anyone has ever gone in and come back, and no, I tell them, no one has ever gone in and come back. That is the entire point. That is the thing the ring is built around. But they never ask the real question, which is the only question a warden can actually answer. They never ask, and then what do you do? And then I take up the watch again. That is what I do. The reach is gone, folded into a warning that will outlast my people the way it outlasted the SciFi, and the dark out past my lamp is exactly as quiet as it was before they came, because the verge is not satisfied and the verge is not finished. The verge is only patient, and somewhere out in the bright, confident galaxy, a new power is rising fast and competent and pleased with itself, a power that has never lost. A power that will one day expand until its charts run up against a quiet mark and stop, and its young will look at the ring of old lights and ask the small laugh question, and read the warning and call it a HFY superstition, and go in to see. They will not come out. Nothing comes out. And I, or whatever keeper holds this lamp by then, will catch their last signals climbing late and alone out of the dark that does not answer, and will fold them into the round and send them on and keep the silence and take up the watch again. People who hear a warden speak, and we speak so rarely that when we do, it is remembered, they always want it to end with hope. They want me to say that one day a people will heed the round, will read the warning and step back, and that the cordon will at last have done its work and the dying will stop. I have kept the lamp at Ashrith for 61 years, and I will not lie to you to make the ending soft. No people has ever heeded it. The round has gone round the verge since before my kind had writing, and it has never once turned a confident fleet back at the line. It does not work. If you measure a warning by whether it is heeded, the cordon is the longest failure in the history of the galaxy. But that is not what it is for. I understood that finally in the long watches waiting for the reach to die. The cordon is not for the ones it fails to turn back. It is for the silence afterward. It is so that when a great and confident people goes into the dark and does not come out, their last words are not lost, are not scattered, are not left to fade unheard at the edge of a region no one will admit is a door. It is so that someone is keeping the lamp. It is so that someone catches the last signal climbing out and cleans it and confirms it, and folds it into a grief that refuses to grow old and sends it on, so that the dead go round and round the thing that took them, never forgotten, never finished, recent forever. That is the silence we keep, not the silence of the verge that is not ours, that belongs to the place and to whatever the place is, and I have stopped asking what the place is, because 61 years have taught me the asking is the first step inward. The silence we keep is the other one. It is the silence we hold for the ones who would not be warned. It is the quiet of the lamp after the last signal is folded in and sent on. The quiet of a keeper at his watch with nothing left to do but wait for the next confident fleet to gather at the edge of his charts and turn inward past his light. I am still at the lamp. The reach is still going round. The dark is still patient. And somewhere out in the bright part of the galaxy, where the charts are full and the powers are young and no one has ever lost, the next ones are rising, and they have not yet found the quiet mark on the chart, and they have not yet heard the laugh in their own throats, and they have not yet read the warning and decided it was meant for someone else. I will be here when they do. I keep the lamp at Oshrith. Nothing comes out of the verge. I catch what does, I pass it on, I keep the silence. Pass it on,